start with the Geeta Dhyana. It should be in the Kirtan. Yes, you have. It's a page there. We can repeat it together. It's in English. Please, Christian, it's in the... We can all repeat it together. Geeta Dhyana is traditionally... It's meditation on the Gita. It's traditionally the way that all Bhagavad Gita study begins. Normally, we would be chanting it in Sanskrit. But here we're given this beautiful English translation by Swami Satchidananda. We can repeat that together. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the bestower of supreme grace, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay. For those that have been here the last few days and those joining us online, we step back to where we were on, before I drove off to Phoenix on Monday morning. The Lord in this teaching, the Lord Krishna, but the Lord Krishna is a name, not the name. A name. The Lord is teaching through the Bhagavad Gita by pointing to that which underlies the entirety of the universe, to that which underlies our own personality. They're the same. To that which is the goal of life, to that which is of the nature of Satchidananda, existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute, to that which every desire that we could possibly entertain will lead us, to that which is the source. So he's pointing in so many different ways to point. And we could say pointing in the center, pointing in the heart, but also pointing up. Also pointing up to the highest nature within us. So he does this, and that's where we're coming again now. But then, when he's not pointing, he's describing what happened, how it is that we lost our awareness of this, how it is that we became veiled. There's some of this, and then how to correct it. How to come back into the natural state. Natural state. I mentioned something earlier as we were sitting for meditation. What we call life is not really life. It's a kind of a living death. Suffering to suffering. We have a little pleasure, a little joy here and there, and then something's always jarring. Something's never quite right. Satisfaction is never at hand. And so, and we find that we're sleepwalking through life. By the age of 15, coming into this birth, we carry a personality already. We already have likes and dislikes and such. And by the age of 15, the personality is pretty darn well done. It's pretty well formed. So the way you will react to things is pretty well set. To things that will happen. By the age of 15, it's done, isn't it? Yeah. And how much control did you really have over your circumstances up until the age of 15? Right? Some would say that you chose your parents, but do you remember that? And your parents have a relationship. Is that important? The relationship between the parents and whether they're two parents or not, and how the parents treat each other and how they treat you, are these foundational in terms of the development of the psyche, the development of the personality? So by the age of 15, it's pretty well set. And with each of us, it will be different. With each of us, it will be different. But also, it's quite limited and quite limiting if we're seeking happiness, which all of us are. We'll find that we're going to have to open our eyes beyond that limited conditioning, that limited scope, and the limited personality that we've taken on. We'll find that we're going to have to open up beyond it in order to find what we've been seeking. And so we can say in a manner of speaking that Lord Krishna is giving us the way home, or the way to transcend this limited state, this limited personality. So here, chapter 5, he's been teaching this yoga of renunciation. Renunciation, we can say, of not of action. And he's been very, very clear consistently through all of this. Action is not to be renounced. His words, action is not to be renounced. Action is not to be renounced. If you renounce action, you're not helping yourself. What's to be renounced is the fruit of the action, or more precisely, we could say the expectation of the fruit of action. So, and he's been giving a prescription of acting in a way where you care, but you're not doing it for yourself, this own limited self, and you're not doing it with an expectation of what I get out of it. And that's a very, very difficult one, in particular for us in Western society, isn't it? Because it seems like everyone, and these personalities which were formed by the age of 15, everyone acting in order to get what is believed to be needed in order to be happy, but with that very limited view which could never bring happiness. So this is the prescription that he's been sharing, and he's talked about the wisdom which is one's own wisdom, not limited wisdom, but full and complete whole. The wisdom being veiled like shadow to the sun, or like smoke to the flame. This allegory has been used in this chapter. When there's a bright flame, oftentimes smoke will come, right? There might be some moisture in the wood that's burning, and smoke, or some impurities in the wood, coal, such in the wood. Smoke or perhaps steam will come, and it can hide the flame, but in fact the flame is still there. And in this case, so too, this limited notion that we've been dealing with of self is like smoke. The only way it can come is because the flame is here, the light of consciousness is here, but the smoke will veil. So now, through being successful in the practice, that is really being able to dedicate an abhyasa yoga, which is constant effort at living life in this way, as an offering, as a sacrifice, as an alchemical process in order to convert what is undivine into the divine. So here we come back, 23. While still in the human body, if you can stand fast amid the forces of desire and anger, then surely you are a yogi destined for happiness. The yogi who discovers happiness and joy within is also illumined solely from within, so no longer longing for some light outside. solely from within. And that yogi becomes one with God and marvels at the ecstasy of God. Those who have realized their unity with Brahman, the Absolute, are the rishis, sages from whom sin and doubt have been dropped away. It is true that we're all one, but it has to be discovered ourselves. Just memorizing it, telling everyone, it won't do it. The truth of it has to be discovered within, right? And upon the discovery within, then initially a taste of this fullness, of this satisfaction, of this bliss. But finally, the one who's realized the essential unity, realized completely, right? No longer veiling it, no longer covering it with their thoughts or their words or their actions, no longer covering it, now living in a unity with it, now expressing from this complete place, are the rishis or the sages. I'm not talking about someone else, for whom sin and doubt have dropped away. They have transcended the dualities of nature and delight in the welfare of all beings. Delight in the welfare of all beings, wish for nothing other than the welfare of all. We'll have lost the notion of little self. It will be gone, wiped out. Not even a memory. Not even a memory. It's very interesting from this different perspective. Delight in the welfare of all beings. Lust and anger naturally drop away from those who successfully renounce attachment to the fruits of their actions. With their minds now calm and controlled, they easily realize their true self and enjoy the bliss of oneness with God. And then again, ever the teacher, Krishna helps us once again in terms of reaching this place. He says, by withdrawing, 27 and 28, by withdrawing attention from external things, mentally focusing back between the eyebrows and equalizing the in and out breaths, pranayama, thus you control the mind, the senses, and the discerning intellect, buddhi. Then, by aiming for nothing else but absolute and unconditional freedom, moksha, personal desires, fear, and anger naturally drop away, and you undoubtedly experience final liberation. The teaching is literally so, but also even here what's being described might sound very much like a limited practice. There's a lovely commentary by Swamiji we can share. He says, how easy it is to say, shut out all external things, balance the in and out breaths, control the senses, mind, and intellect, only pursue liberation, cast away desires, fear, and anger, and then you are a liberated sage. He says the first thing to do is to withdraw the mind from external things. It doesn't mean closing your eyes, your nose, and the senses. It doesn't mean that. That's what he says. That's a concept that we have. Understand that generally speaking, we come to spiritual path being very jaded and wanting to get away and imagining that what we're trying to get away from is that which is outside of us. So I'm trying to get away from you and you and you and you and you and everybody else, right? That will be a very common, really, in this time, it's very common. That's not actually it. Right? And we'll imagine then that when we hear teachings like this, then I can close my eyes to everything outside of me. I can close off all of my senses to everything outside of me and experience the bliss. But then, if that were the case, that would require us to keep our eyes closed. to never smell anything again, to never taste anything again, to never touch anything again. But when you deal with the teaching, your own self, which is inside, is also, where else? Outside. And so in so doing, and this is a great misunderstanding of the teaching that's being shared, and in so doing, cutting oneself off from the great self, which is everywhere, we're simply withdrawing into this idea of a limited container and continuing to propagate this notion that I'm trying to get away, and as long as I can successfully get away, then I'll be happy. Right, Gopala? But in fact, what we're needing to get away from are wrong notions, wrong ideas, wrong acceptance. It's the surface of this. Swami Premananda Ji Maharaj used to say, when speaking of the world and the experience of the world, he would say, the world is like a banana. If you are to enjoy it, you have to peel it first. And what you're peeling are the names and the forms. You're peeling Anthony off and seeing the essence underlying. You're peeling the color of the skin away and not concerned about whether it's white or brown or yellow. You're peeling the shape away and not concerned about whether it's fat or slim or pretty or ugly. Huh? You're peeling all of these away from yourself and from all and getting to the essence of it. So withdrawing the senses from the sense objects doesn't mean coming within to some separate place. It means removing the sense objects from the equation. Remove them all. Remove yourself from the sense objects. The sense objects are just the banana skin. They're hiding the fruit. The fruit is Satchidananda. The fruit is existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. The fruit is eternal life. That's what's underlying the skin. Underlying the skin of what? Yeah, this wood floor. Yes. Yes, right here, Stephanie. Underlying. So you're withdrawing yourself from the sense objects. That doesn't mean outside of you unless you realize what is meant. If you realize what is meant, then you will remove yourself even from the thoughts. You will withdraw yourself from the thoughts. You'll withdraw yourself from the desires, right? You'll withdraw yourself from the notions if you know what is meant. So from the sense objects, don't see sense objects any longer. Eyes open, eyes open. Eyes open, see what's there. See the underlying beauty that's right in front of you and right inside of you. Don't see something other than you. Huh? This is what it means. Meditation, the practice of meditation, many different ways, right? There's walking meditation, there's seated meditation, there's karma yoga, which is a type of meditation practice, etc., etc., etc. So many. The experience of meditation, this morning as we were sitting for meditation, we talked for a moment about this. We're practicing meditation. We're not meditating. We call it meditation. It's not meditation. Not unless you have the experience of the loss of a separate self. When you experience the loss of a separate self, then that's meditation. Everything else is preparation for meditation. And meditation is eyes open, eyes closed. Huh? If you can't see the same self, capital S self, everywhere with your eyes open, you're not meditating yet. That's it. Samadhi is not eyes closed. Samadhi is eyes open. Samadhi is the state of the stable intellect, undisturbed. Because what? Because only the banana is seen, not the peel. Only God, only Brahman is seen wherever one looks, inside, outside. Eyes open, eyes closed. Smells, only that. Not something separate. So it's not actually a physical withdrawal, although the practice of a physical withdrawal is an aid. But when we misunderstand it, it's not even necessarily an aid. It's just a way for the ego to justify separating ourselves from our problems and not dealing with them. Right? If we run away from the world, I get it. I understand the feeling, because this life, until we actually are alive, this life really sucks. It does. It does. To always have to be alert about who to run away from. How fast to get out of Dodge? When should I leave? This job, it's miserable. When am I going to go? This place I'm living, they don't respect me. I've had about enough of it. How much money do I need to have saved up before I can go? It's a misery, isn't it? It's an absolute misery. What do they think of me? Do they understand me? Do they understand me? If they don't understand me, I'm very uncomfortable. And I might have to leave. That's a living death. That's a living death. Isn't it? Yeah. Always being on guard for what someone might do to you or say to you. Or, oh my God, I might get COVID. Oh no. Always being on guard. That's what we call life. It's not life. Life is eternal. Life is eternal. Life is undisturbed by the happenings of this world. Yes, dear.
As the father of the Brady Bunch, he would come up with these very painfully simple but kind of profound statements. This is what the show was predicated on. It's whimsical. Anyway, he would say to Peter Brady, "Remember, son, wherever you go, there you are."
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. And so if there is disturbance, then you're going to carry it wherever you go. Huh? Even in ashram, you'll be trying to get away. Right? In fact, most of the people that will come to ashram will come because they're trying to get away. And then at some point, when we listen, we hear, oh my God, I'm trying to get away from myself. That's what it is. I need to get away from myself. Well, what's required for that? Sadhana. Right? I have to come to know what myself really is. And I have to learn to see it, to imbibe in it, to be constantly aware of it. My real self, not this imaginary self that I've taken myself to be. Not this body which is made of food. Not this mind which is just thought after thought after thought. Life itself, life eternal. Bliss absolute. And we have to come to that place. We must. All that you wish for is satisfaction. Everything in your life is a movement towards being satisfied. Look at it. Constantly you experience this dissatisfaction, and so you move on. You go to the next thing, hoping for satisfaction there. Is it so? The next place. The next wife, the next husband, the next person. Constantly a movement towards freedom. Towards freedom. What you want is freedom. What you want is moksha, which is the freedom that will end the search for freedom. And that freedom can be attained through following this prescription that the Lord is giving us, by peeling away the layers covering oneself. It's not easy. But here when he says shutting out external things means shutting out the things. And all of the things are external. It doesn't mean shutting you out. It means shutting out this form and this name and seeing you. Right? And seeing you. So the first thing to do, withdraw the mind from external things. It doesn't mean closing your eyes, nose, ears, and everything. It means don't get distracted by the things. Right?
Yeah.
Don't get distracted by the things. Don't get distracted by what someone says. Doesn't mean you run away to a place of solace, but it does mean that. It's funny, right? It does mean that. It means you find the solace inside. Oh. And therefore the things don't distract. So develop dispassion, which is detachment from the objects of the senses. So this whole like-dislike. Then he speaks of meditation, focus between the eyebrows. It need not be between the eyebrows. It could be even the crown chakra, etc. It doesn't mean with the eyes. Doesn't always mean with the eyes open and closed, etc. So a little story from Swami Ramaswamy, our dear Swami Ramaswamy. He loves to tell this story. I don't know how many times, pretty much every day. I think whenever a guest would come, he would tell us. He would talk about this saint sitting in the forest. And Swamiji never sat in the forest. It's very funny how he would tell this. So he took Mahasamadhi a couple of months ago. And Swamiji was always in meditation, the Swamiji I knew, but he was always a karma yogi. He was always serving. He never saw anything other than the highest, but always serving, just always serving. Would you like a tea? You want to sit and read a shloka of the Geeta? Here, let me care for you. And his body had been damaged through a stroke, so he always had someone assisting. But he would tell this story of a saint sitting in the forest. He would say, the fellow sits there, eyes closed. If you come across him, you see him, looks just like somebody practicing meditation with their eyes closed, sitting there. And then after some time, if you watch, he opens his eyes. And what Swamiji described is, he's sitting there, and at some point he says to himself, if God is outside, why do you have your eyes closed? And so he opens his eyes and he looks around. And then after some time, he says to himself, if God is inside, why have your eyes open? He closes his eyes. It just goes back and forth. If you miss the point of it, it's just a funny story. It's a practice of being aware of what's here, inside and outside both. And it's a constant practice. And it is a constant practice. That's what sadhana is. It's a constant practice. The first shloka of the Isha Upanishad, all of this is to be covered over by the Lord. It's said to be the greatest practice. Hari, it's said to be the greatest practice. So all of this is to be covered over by the Lord. It said that if we understand this first shloka, then we're free. What is it saying? It's saying that there's nothing here but the Lord. But we're getting distracted by the sense objects. We're taking the sense objects to be the reality, instead of the reality to be the reality. The reality is life itself. The reality is eternal. The reality is unchanging. It's the light underlying the hologram. The hologram moves, but it only appears to move, you see. Is it so?
Yes.
The hologram speaks, but it only appears to speak. Is it so? What is the hologram really? It's light. And so we're observing the hologram taking the form to be the reality, but the light is the reality. And so we get distracted so easily because the form moves. And the pain comes here, the pain comes there. There's a little ecstasy in this part. He's so pretty. But that's when we're getting caught up in the form and taking the form to be the real. So the practice, what sadhana is about really, and what Lord Krishna is walking us through, is seeing what's here and here, in every moment. In every moment, learning to see, learning to wake up to what's really here. So the practice is really waking up in the moment, and seeing it in this moment. And then this moment. And then this moment. And here he's given us a practice. Center your awareness within yourself. What does that mean? Some separates off. No, it doesn't. It means center your awareness within spirit. Withdraw your awareness from the things. Be undistracted by the things, by the objects of the senses. Keep your awareness in the one, in the unity. It's a practice. There are other practices as well in terms of seeing the one, but this is a practice. It's a beautiful practice. You can chant your mantra while you're doing it. As well. Okay. How do you want to take that? Questions, observations, anything? We're getting to the last shloka in the chapter. We'll start there in the morning. I'm with you tomorrow morning as well. Anything?
So could you kind of say everything's inside of yourself too? You said everything's outside.
Yeah, but where is yourself?
Yeah, that would be, you would have to have.
If you know yourself, then you can say that. But there's no limit. There's no limit. If you draw a limitation, then you don't know.
All inclusive.
All inclusive. All inclusive. Oh. You see, the objects are constantly changing, but that which is underlying the object's not changing at all. Oh, anything else? Comment, observation? Okay. Okay, so let's close with final prayers in RT, page 174. Can we practice this today? Can we practice withdrawing our awareness from the things, from the movement, from the words that are said, from the forms, from the names? Can we practice that today and see the essence underlying it instead? Is that a practice that we can engage in today? Not just within yourself, guys. You have to do it outside. Can we practice this today? Okay. Hari. Okay. Oh. Finding it within this limited, it's helpful. It's a great practice. But the practice can't stop there. It can't stop there. When we begin to discover that all is spirit, then we have to expand outwards in this moment of love. Transcending the forms.
So you're feeling what other people feel, or what? Is that a practice of this?
That's a practice of compassion. It's a practice.
Oh, that's a little bit different.
And it's a practice. It's compassion practice. It's helpful practice.
I find being present with another person and listening is a great.
Also a very good, it's a beautiful practice of compassion.
Yes.
The Lord is guiding us to that point of unity, which is within this limited self and this limited self and within all, pointing us to that one point of unity within all.
Always the same.
Always the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a sama, it's a sameness. Sameness, which is underlying the movement, the names and the forms. Pointing us there. Not pointing us there just as an educational exercise. Pointing us there because that's home.
Yeah.
Pointing us there because we find everything that we've sought is actually there.
Yes.
And it brings a complete shift of perspective. Being rooted in this place. Complete shift of perspective. Okay. Let's close with the final prayers in RT 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Makashintu Bhavave Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mritor Ma Mritangamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember Thee. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Lord Sakura Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all traditions. Before we rise, just awareness of that universal prayer. So if we're aware of the words that we're repeating, notice that you can make that a practice to bring that universal prayer in during the day. It shouldn't even just be twice a day in the evening. But can we practice it one more time and just bring special awareness to the words that are in the prayer? Bring a very clear awareness to them. Be aware of them as they wash over. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all of these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all of these names and forms. Let us ever remember Thee. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Okay, let's stand.